Welcome back to the LCS for game number 4. It's Clutch Gaming going up against FlyQuest. My name is Clayton Captain Flowers Reigns, joined by the #1 Kale on the server. Citation perhaps needed. It's Isaac Azale Cummings Bentley.
Yeah, definitely gonna need some facts checks on that one.
I mean, you had some questionable KDAs the other day, but there were some good ones in there too. But for now, let's go ahead and look at the starting rosters. Selecting the blue side, it's Clutch Gaming. They've got Huni in the top lane, Lira in the jungle, Damonte at mid, Piglet and Vulcan bot lane and support with Coach McScrag.
Facing them on the red side today is gonna be FlyQuest. In the top lane, Viper. In the jungle, Santorin. Mid laner, Pobelter. Bot and support gonna be WildTurtle and JayJ with coaches Invert and Cop.
Now, despite where they're at in the standings, you can't discount the strides Clutch Gaming have made at defining their style.
Exactly. They're playing kind of these triple threat comps, a lot of flex picks that they're drafting, and it's hard to actually play against that. You can see Huni's best champion has been Cassio, and Piglet on Aurelia. They have used that combination twice to pick up a couple wins. They did go 1-1 last week, but you have to say that their game against 100 Thieves was a pretty huge throw and could kind of be hiding some of their bigger improvements.
And one team that was on everybody's radar but has since fallen on some hard times is FlyQuest, who, remember, came out the gate swinging earlier on this split, but are currently trying to break a 4-game loss streak.
Yeah, and what they've got going for them is they've absolutely figured out their style, right? They're hard committed to this split push for Viper. He's been playing a lot of that, trying to get side lane advantages, trying to kind of create openings through that. And their loss streak still has them in 4th. So if they can break through and turn this around a little bit, a spot in playoffs is still theirs for the tanking.
And we are getting to the point now where we're, very close to the end of the regular season. There's not a lot of time left to be really saying, okay, this is how we're going to perfect these strategies. Here's where we're going to make up for those weaknesses. You don't have the opportunity to have throwaway games as much anymore, especially with the state of everything. We've talked about the big clump of teams. All the remaining 4 teams we're going to see still yet to play today are either 4-8 or 5-7. That's 1 game apart or dead even with each other. Makes it that much more important to find every win you can.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, FlyQuest, it wasn't too long ago, a couple of weeks back, we were asking, well, are they the second best team in the league? You know, they were doing really well. They played Cloud9, they lost that. And then it was kind of, okay, well, they're not the second best. Are they the third best? Then they lost to TSM. And then they have gone on this big losing streak. And it's kind of hard to know when that slide is going to stop. Because back then it was Clutch, sitting kind of securely in last place, and FlyQuest looking very, very strong. But this could have them tied in the standings today.
Well, we're going to see some respect bans going towards those top laners from both sides here to start things off. Clutch Gaming getting rid of Viper's signature Riven pick, as the Cassio that we talked about being so successful for Huni will be removed by FlyQuest. Zoe and Nico also taken off the table. Remember, if you're not exactly caught up with the current state of where Nico is, turns out she can be played in a variety of positions.
Yeah, she's actually pretty high win rate in 4 roles right now. She's the highest win rate in the game in both top and bot, playing this on-hit Nico. Where you can actually go Rage Blade and you're proccing your 3rd hit passive every 2 autos. That also works on turrets. It gives you a massive speed boost. This champion is extremely oppressive, so now that that build has been discovered, I don't think we're going to be seeing any Nico get through bans.
Irelia also banned out by Clutch Gaming, so we will not see Piglet playing anything like that this time around. Jace, the final ban of the first round here for FlyQuest, as Clutch decide the first thing they want to do is get themselves some engage and a big meatball on the front line with that Alistar.
And if they wanted to go for something like Yasuo again, that would pair up well with the Alistar. We have seen them bring that out, and is one of those triple flex picks that we were kind of talking about earlier on. And especially for teams drafting on the red side, when Clutch does draft all these flex picks, it takes away a lot of the red side advantage because you don't really know where the picks are going to go. We saw them in their win last week drafting Cassio, Yasuo, and Aurelia, which could all be played bot, middle, or top, and then how are you supposed to actually counterpick that, right? They're just going to flex around to whatever the preferential matchup is. And that is certainly, I think, the Clutch advantage right now.
And that's the entire point of Red's side. The way that the draft is constructed with the advantage that you have on one side and on the other, Red gets the last pick in the draft. You know every other element going into the game and get to choose accordingly. But when your opponents get to swap around, it's just as you said. It can take a huge huge bunch of wind out of your sails and remove some of the strength there, as Ryze and Karma will be picked up for CG.
Yeah, and it's not even just the last pick. It's last pick in the first round as well, right? So you kind of have that double counter pick, and both the Ryze and the Karma are flexible. Karma could be a bot lane for a support. Very unlikely this game, obviously, as there is an Alistar, unless they're doing something really crazy, but we saw the tank Karma top lane for Huni. We have seen Karma mid, in the past, played around kind of crit scaling marksman style builds. Ryze can go both mid and top, so these are certainly some flexible picks here, and
that had to be a miss.
Yeah, that has to be a miss pick. I would be, unless they're doing some sort of funnel thing, and I have been seeing funnel show up in solo queue a lot more, and I have seen, but the coaches are talking. It looks like that funnel was a miss.
Yeah, we've got an error on stage. Unfortunately, you guys aren't going to see anything super new meta here today with Braum and Blitzcrank both locked in on the same side. Blitzcrank mispick on the side of FlyQuest means we will need to restructure the draft. I assume everything will be the same up until then.
Yep, so Blitzcrank was the incorrect pick. Everything else will stand. We will remake and try to very quickly get back to that point in the draft. Certainly would have been something pretty wacky.
Yeah, I think wacky's one word for it.
Yeah.
Int, maybe? Blitzcrank
hey man, we
plus
played
Braum?
against, the Tarek, Lulu, Yi, all that stuff.
But we're two random guys
days.
playing Smurf Flex Q. This is a bit different environment.
I don't know. I watched one of those games today.
All right, fair enough. I'll accept that point. You got something to work with there, but up until this point, as you said, Clutch Gaming playing towards what we were expecting to see, picking some of those champions that make you question, where is this actually going to go? How can we adapt to this? And the throw that Clutch Gaming had, remember, Huni was playing the Karma in the top side.
Yep.
He started off with a tanky build, going the Iceborne Gauntlet into the Zhonya's Hourglass, then transitioned into more of a support role, grabbing the Ardent Censer and the Mikhail's Crucible. Overall, Clutch Gaming just seemed to have no idea what to do in the mid game of that game. They just sort of pushed waves out and waited for something to happen. There was no real rhyme or reason behind what was going on, but the early game they played was very clean.
Yeah, and I think that has been where a lot of our teams are having their troubles, is in the mid and late game, actually. Okay, great, you got an early game lead, now what, right? And a lot of the teams, I think, are struggling to really snowball that into a Baron, to be able to actually properly set up the vision there and take that, instead of just 50-50ing a Baron or kind of just lazily pushing out the waves and waiting for your opponent to make a mistake. So we'll see if they can actually capitalize on some of that, and we are looking like we're back into the draft here, I do believe. Everything's just kind of getting populated up, and we are on that third pick where Blitzcrank did come in, so we should be hopping right back into it, and we'll find out what the intended pick here was for FlyQuest.
All right, Blitzcrank, stay the hell out of here. We don't want to see you no more. FlyQuest thinking about some 80 carries. There we go. Jinx locked in. WildTurtle looking for some late game insurance.
I like it. Jinx is definitely a pick that I think is very strong in the meta right now, especially if people are going to play some of the greedier bot lanes. I will say, though, Jinx is something that can be punished by a very aggressive bot lane. If you want to try to go for some of these all-in style plays that we have seen Clutch doing in the past couple weeks. We do see Marksman ban coming out, though, Lucian being targeted.
There's that aggro
So they
pick.
are certainly expecting it to perhaps be a Marksman and not even, a Yasuo or something along those lines. If you were worried about another lane bully pick coming out, you could be concerned about something along the lines of a Draven if Piglet is comfortable playing that. Those certainly can be very, very tough for Jinx to deal with in the early stages, but that being said, already some strong engage, with the Lissandra here. You're kind of creating that pseudo frontline with the Braum plus the Lissandra, and if Jinx is able to get to a couple items, this champion is certainly a monster in those later game stages.
Plus, you mentioned FlyQuest have found a style that's largely defined by split pushing. Jinx has the ability to clear waves incredibly effectively with the rockets from the long range, and it makes it that much easier for the outnumbered squad of FlyQuest to defend, while Viper gets something done in a side.
Yeah, very good point. And Callista Alistar, another very aggressive bottom lane, so not worried as much about some of those non-standard picks, as so many of them already have been banned out. You see Irelia is gone, obviously Jace is gone, which can be flex spot, Cassio is gone, so we'll see if Clutch actually have more of those picks that they want to showcase here today, or if it will just be a more standard bot lane marksman paired up with what they already have drafted.
Well, FlyQuest definitely want to leave that last spot open for Viper, really give him that advantage of saying, hey, here's everything you're going to be up against, pick the best champion possible for the job. The second to last pick will be the Nocturne for the side of FlyQuest as Clutch Gaming grab the Kaisa and the Rek'Sai.
Yeah, and Kai'Sa is exactly what they actually paired up with the tank Karma top lane last time around. And I am saying tank because he started Iceborne, but as you said, it did transition into an Ardent Sensor and more of that team fight style build. One of the issues that they actually ran into last time, though, was this split push style where Huni was never actually grouping and fighting because he was always kind of answering the side lanes. And it is going to be Vladimir, which I think is a pretty nice pick into Karma. Karma, can definitely pressure you, I think, in the early levels and, be constantly harassing you and trying to push you out. But you will get to a certain point on Vladimir where you're starting to shrug off a lot of that poke, and then it can start to become very Vladimir favorite, I think. That being said, Karma still is a good answer in the team fighting to Vladimir. The AoE shields coming out with your ultimate are very powerful at absorbing a lot of that AoE damage, and this is a very, very dive-heavy team drafted by FlyQuest. It looks like it's very focused on getting the initial reset for Jinx on that passive, get that proc. You dive in with the Lissandra, the Nocturne ultimate comes flying in. Vladimir drops his ult, you burst down that one person. Jinx gets excited, tries to mop up the fight. We'll see if that's going to be the case here, though, as Clutch certainly, I think, has a lot of early game power with this Rek'Sai, who should be running the show against Nocturne in those early levels. Some very powerful ganking. Exceptionally hard to actually ward out this champion as well because you can approach from different tunnels, use different paths. We'll see if they're able to get any sort of early advantage to offset some of that late game power that the Jinx is certainly going to bring.
The Jinx will have the late game power. Vladimir is a monster when he hits 5-6 items as well. The AoE damage is just there. And Lissandra will be clearing waves and providing a transition towards that point of the game here for the side of FlyQuest. So definitely have the tools in their inventory to try to end that loss streak here today. But they will have to do it up against Clutch Gaming and up against this Karma from Huni that honestly did some really impressive work during a lot of the game the last time we got to see this pick. The one thing I do like about the Vladimir, though, is they're picking this thing that's strictly a lane bully. It beats the crap out of you. You don't have any sort of interaction with it. It is just a frustrating lane. One of the best ways to get away from that is play a ranged champion of your own.
Yep, exactly. It's going to be a lot harder to bully. Still, that being said, with the really long cooldowns that Vlad has in the early levels, Karma can still run at you and just kind of auto you, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to win a lot of those trades. You can see it is Klepto Karma, so Huni's still very much intending to be constantly going at them with those auto attacks and kind of farming off him as well.
And the Vladimir setup that you're seeing him run is a pretty common one for Vlad. This champion, Phase Rush with Inspiration Secondary. You take everything that makes you faster. You take Phase Rush, you take Nimbus Cloak, you end up taking the free boots in your secondary. You also get extra cooldown reduction in both trees, the Cosmic Insight for the +5, as well as Transcendence over on the Vladimir there, just like that with Gathering Storm. Pretty much what this means is I recognize that I'm weak early. I don't care. I'm going to take Gathering Storm, Transcendence, free boots, all these things that do nothing for him in lane phase. You just go through lane, and then you become super strong later on.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where going even in farm means the Vladimir is generally winning, right?
Yes.
This is one of those situations where you don't need to bully that guy. You just need to kind of survive and farm and get levels, and you're going to be feeling really good about that situation. You can see that Huni is actually sitting up here in that top brush and maybe trying to set up a little bit of a freeze. We'll see if he elects to just try to hard shove or try to pull the wave towards him, as Vladimir can really struggle in the early levels to farm under turret, but when you know that the Vladimir was leashing top, you always have to be worried about early things too.
You can see both junglers starting on their red, but a ward also placed down by FlyQuest on the edge of the chicken camp there on the side of Clutch Gaming, making sure that in case the Rek'Sai tries any sort of a cheeky level 2 gank mid through that side, they will be aware of what's going on. You can see the ping coming out from them as well as they recognized he was moving away from that area. I like the fact that they're trying to keep track of him because, like you said, this is a champion that can take over the early game if given a chance.
Yeah, and you can see a couple early wards were actually dropped for them, right? There was the early ward here in the river, as well as this ward over by the Raptor pit. Those two trying to track him at the Raptor camp, as well as trying to track if he goes over to the Scuttle there. So, some early warding certainly was intended to follow this Rek'Sai. Unfortunately, the Scuttle one did expire before they're going to get eyes on him.
Lira clearing out that Scuttle as the bottom side had already been secured by Santorin's Nocturne. And now we've got a sideline report. Pastry Time is standing by, so let's check in and see what he found out.
Hey there, had a quick talk to McScrag, the coach of Clutch, and just to ask him about the Karma top pick, because we have seen it a few times. He said that, it's a strong, oppressive lane that Huni can play, but actually in this comp, it's better to, in the mid to late game, actually help teamfight and enable both Piglet and Damonte, who are looking like the slightly bigger carries this game. Anyway, that's it from me. Back to you guys.
And I think that makes a lot of sense with the build that we did actually see from him last time around. When you are going towards the Ardent Sensor, that is not for the 1v1. That is to group, that is to enable these guys and essentially be that super powerful support who has a lot of AP. I'm also very interested to see what his first item is going to be. This is, Iceborne is seen engage bot lane.
Bottom side, 2 versus 2. JayJ having a flash out, in some trouble there. Stun coming down onto WildTurtle here too. Piglet getting the better of him. And that's a summoner spell expended by the side of FlyQuest, but mid lane is Pobelter, whose first blood, and Lira sets it up and cashes in.
Really nicely done there, getting the early kill. Lira has this powerful early pick with the Rek'Sai and will be able to cash in on that first blood over to him, but to my point, Iceborne probably makes a lot less sense against the Vladimir here. We could see, something like a Luden's Rush or something along those lines, but here is the replay. We'll see it one more time. Damonte very low on mana, and yeah, just interrupted on the claw. So this is why Pobelter actually just holds onto the flash. He's not going to get out of that one. That is very well timed by Damonte, making sure there's no escape for Pobelter. And now Huni, he is running out of mana, so Viper can start to kind of sustain back up slowly, and Santorin's here.
Santorin's going to find him. Fear Tether should connect there, grabbing the CC. Follow-up from Viper's going to force the flash out of Huni.
Yeah, does have to flash out of there. I wonder if he could have just walked it out. I mean, he wants the base anyway because he's out of mana there. I don't think they actually had kill pressure because Viper was not sitting on an empowered Q or anything along those lines. So I do feel Huni, especially with Rek'Sai in the area, could have sat on that flash. Now will be more vulnerable and is going to get an early chalice. So he's going to be rushing Athenes. This is certainly very much Huni, get early items, and then you have to group and have the power in the team fight, because this is not going to be for the one-on-one where Athenes, you can't even use the heal on yourself. It only actually works on those teammates.
Support item Karma is never going to contest Vlad in a solo lane after Vlad hits level 9. It's just not the reality of the situation. But being able to power up Piglet and Damonte, who have both done a lot of work in the past carrying this squad, putting out some impressive performances of their own. Damonte facilitating that mid lane play, as you said, timing very well. As Huni might look to grab the solo kill on a Viper here. Sanguine Pool right in time to avoid that last inner flame.
We'll see if Huni wants to actually try to chase him down and stop his recall. It is a bit dangerous because they don't know where Santorin is, so he won't go for it. And Viper does have TP, so we'll be back up to lane and expecting probably a Proto Belt rush. We'll see if he wants to go for something a little bit more defensive to live through it though.
Yeah, Proto Belt rush, pretty standard on Vlad, especially when you're running this cooldown build. A lot of times you'll see Vladimir's, along with the Transcendence and Cosmic Insight, go for the cooldown on the stat bonus as well in the first tree of your runes. So all you have to do is build a Proto Belt and a Zhonya's, and you're at 45 CDR very, very quickly. Super effective on the champion, as Lira now knows that Santorin is nearby. He's got that special Rek'Sai sight, but they don't want to move in and try to dive between two turrets just yet.
Yeah, he is in that pit though. Probably can steal this away. Does have a level up, and the extra damage on that smite matters quite a bit in these early levels. They will back off though. They don't have the confidence to actually fully commit to this, knowing that FlyQuest bot lane could actually roam up, as Kai'Sa was back in base, and Pobelter certainly a lot closer on that play as well than Damonte.
And talking about the tragic game, the Clutch Gaming experience last weekend, where they did have that big lead and they threw it. Piglet on the Kai'Sa, as you said, in that game as well, and he just was one of the reasons. Him getting caught was what started the comeback for their opponents. Piglet, I'm going to be watching him this game, specifically towards his positioning, especially if the game's slow, and he might want to start trying to make those plays to make sure that he's being very cognizant at all times of the fact that this is a composition where him and Damonte are the cannons. Lira's there to start things off, Huni's there to protect. It's up to you to deal the damage, and I want to see him have the positioning that enables that to happen.
Exactly, right? These other guys are more force multipliers, right? When you have the Alistar to set you up and you have this Karma to back you up, you have to be the one kind of executing on that, making good on the draft. If you pick up all these pieces to support you, one mistake can end the game on your behalf. So we'll see how they're able to do it. So far on the bottom lane, farming pretty even.
Vulcan grabbing a two-man knock-up down there. We're going to get some more, but Piglet's backing away now. JayJ and WildTurtle trading back, and they'll get the better of the trade this time around.
Yeah, and Turtle is going lethal tempo here. It's into the mid lane.
Mid lane, Nocturne, the power of that ulti is going to be huge. Damonte, can you get yourself away? No, sir! Pobelter grabs some revenge for earlier.
Yeah, going to be able to take down Damonte. They also get both of his summoners there. Big kill. Down to the bot lane.
Side. Vulcan tries to make the play. JayJ is going to be taken very low. Piglet trying to get the return kill. Barely secures it with the Acathian Rain, but one more shot from WildTurtle. It's a double for FlyQuest.
And that is huge, getting 2 early kills on the Jinx. Gonna be feeling so good about that. Might even be able to cash in on a turret plate with all that bonus attack speed. And they're now starting up the Ocean as they killed mid lane, kill both bot. This is a huge swing there for FlyQuest.
FlyQuest want to get this Ocean Drake here now too, but Lira's coming into the pit. Takes the tunnel over the wall, has the flash to get out if he needs it. FlyQuest going to be bringing in multiple people over here. Santorin down to about 400 HP, but they want to maintain control over the Drake pit area. Will be secured by Santorin. Good job there, cool under pressure.
Yeah, very calm and collected here from FlyQuest. They know they don't want to fully commit to a fight, but here is the replay one more time. Pobelter locks them down. The cleanse comes out, but it's not enough as the fear is going to interrupt the ultimate. Then down on the bottom side here, JayJ tagging Vulcan. Vulcan thinking, we can take this play. Just knock him into the turret, knocks him up, W's him back, but JayJ still has the jump, the level up there as well, giving health back, perhaps making that kill take a lot longer than Piglet was expecting, and Turtle is free firing with the lethal tempo the whole time, so he was always gonna get the trade kill. And gets a turret plate off the back of that. That is so much gold in the pockets of Turtle from that one little play there. You know, picking up a good 700-800 gold.
And this is a Jinx, man. We talked about Piglet being a big carry for his team this time around. Turtle's also going to be a massive source of damage for the side of FlyQuest, and you know what a 6-item Jinx can do once he's got Infinity Edge and Hurricane and all these tools that just turns him into a rocket barrage machine.
And you've also got to remember, as we talked about, you know, these other champions around Piglet are there to enable Piglet. And so if you start losing lane, if you start falling really far behind, again, it's a force multiplier. You have to be having that strong original product for it's going to be worth it multiplying.
Multiplying 1 times 5 is still just 5. So if Piglet can get himself up to a 7 or an 8, well, then multiplying by 5 looks really scary. But right now, he's got to make sure that they don't fall further behind in this lane. 20 CS down. Has a kill to his name, working on that Blade of the Ruined King. I think it's a good purchase this game, going up against something stacking a lot of health like the Vladimir. Lissandra also usually going to have some HP in there. Viper throwing down the Hemo Plague onto Huni just to grab some health back, make sure he doesn't end up too much worse for wear on these trades. Huni very low on mana, but remember, the super low mana bar is a bit deceptive when you have the Chalice because you will be maintaining at least an acceptable base level.
Stopwatch.
Stopwatch. Coming out there from Damonte, who tries to return some damage onto Pobelter, but won't get a whole lot out of it. Meanwhile, bottom side, its first turret, not even 11 minutes into the game.
Maybe more.
And WildTurtle's looking to grab even more. Top side, Viper may be taken very low. Huni tries to make the play onto him, while bottom, Vulcan will barely be kept alive by the power of the Alistar ultimate. Super Mega Death Rocket comes out, but Vulcan walks away. Good block from Piglet.
Yeah, good block there. Turtle was waiting out the Alistar ultimate to try to get the execute with that ult himself. We'll see if they're trying to be willing to go for a dive here onto Viper. Viper still has flash. He should have his pool. It's 3-man top. They feel they need to get something back.
Here comes the play. Sanguine Pool already going to be used there by the side of FlyQuest, and Damonte cashes in, grabbing himself a kill onto Viper. As Vlad, one of the most painful things you can do is use the pool early. Clutch Gaming sees that and punishes.
And I mean, he had actually made them retreat. Pobelter had a very good TP, and then Viper is trying to get his E damage off there and pulls towards them to deal like 100 damage and kill himself, right? Like, you just had to actually stay back on the other side of the turret, and then they cannot get that kill because if they commit to it, Pobelter arrives and they all die. So certainly a mistake there from Viper, getting overconfident, seeing that TP coming in from his teammate and kind of giving a free one away.
Viper down about 20 CS himself here in this top side. You can see him not going strictly for one item. This is actually something that you generally see. It's an adaptive strategy. You can tell this guy's a Riven player. A lot of times you see Riven do what I call the cooldown garage sale, where you grab a Warhammer, you grab a Kindle Gem, you grab some Ionian boots. He's just getting the Fiendish Codex from the Hourglass plus the Kindle Gem from the Proto Belt as the first 2 parts, even though they don't work well together, just so he has that cooldowns baseline, more transfusions, more health, more sustainability in this lane to survive against the card.
Yep, exactly. And you know, getting that CDR is going to be very nice. He's closing it on level 10 here, which is going to give him an additional 10%. He already has 5% out of Inspiration. So as he actually ticks over on this level, he's going to be sitting at 35% CDR and max rank of his transfusion, the Q there, and then it becomes very, very hard for Huni to actually put out enough damage to really kill him off. And Huni looking like he's building towards the second item, Ludens here. So it certainly is going a pure AP build this time around, and they're trying to get advantages top. The Rift Herald will be dropped, and critically, it's before 14 minutes, so they can still cash in on plates.
You love to see the pre-14 Rift Herald. You're almost guaranteeing 2 plates with it as long as it makes sure it gets the charge off, and that's 320 gold, which, for those of you who aren't good at math, is even more than a champion kill.
Pobelter's coming up, though. 3-man top.
Can they make this one happen? It's going to be Lira, who's taken very low very quickly. Super Mega Death Rocket making its way up there, but it will not find any sort of a mark. It's 1 for 0 so far. Santorin barely getting himself away. Turret plating's going to fall soon. Shelly's still doing some work, but Pobelter's taken down. Damonte grabs that kill, makes it a 1 for 1, and FlyQuest's outer turret still stands.
Yeah, and FlyQuest is going to be able to get the mid lane turret very likely, or at least a couple of plates, as Turtle is just shredding through that with the attack speed on the Jinx. Already has his Hurricane and a BF sword, and he is dealing a lot of damage to those structures. They also keep their top lane turret alive, despite giving over a couple plates to Shelly. Not going to be able to finish it off.
And WildTurtle is currently 1,500 gold up. We'll talk a little bit more about this after the replay. Let's take another look at how this fight started.
Here this is one more time. You can see that Pobelter was roaming up. He actually roots him out of the burrow there. No real way out here for Lira as he gets taken down. And then you get to see some of the CCs shown off here as Huni gets the root there with the tether into Damonte, getting another root into the full combo from Alistar. Not getting to play your character today, bud.
Not this time around. Flash up, but it does not matter. Pobelter falls, and as I was saying, look at the gold disparity between the 280 carries. And it's more than it seems, because WildTurtle, he's up 1,600, and he's also purely invested into crit right now. Crit items stack multiplicatively. You want to make sure that you're getting everything going. The bigger the crit chance, obviously, the better that's going to stack with both your damage and your attack speed. Blade of the Ruined King, a great item on its own, but it slows down getting all that crit synergy until a little bit later. So WildTurtle, when he hits that 3 crit item power spike, you might only see Piglet on 2 items, Blade of the Ruined King, Rage Blade. It's not going to feel nearly as impactful.
And you can also see, as I was highlighting, he has a 600 gold bounty on his head there, right? You know, so right now it is 600 gold sitting on this Ryze, 450 rather for him, and then 600 over on the Jinx. So these are kind of 2 targets where people are going to be wanting to prioritize them, not only because they're strong, but because there is that additional reward of taking them down.
Drake now the target again here for FlyQuest. Starting things off with a zap coming out from WildTurtle. Remember, there's already 1 Ocean Drake for the side of Fly. Clutch Gaming doesn't look too interested in contesting this one thus far, and FlyQuest will collect that one free of charge. No need for Santorin to win the Smite fight.
And you can see the vision here really kind of starting to extend for FlyQuest. They have a lot of vision across this whole area. Very set up for the Dragon. You know, 4 pinks on this kind of quadrant of the map, 3 even right there on screen. There was no way that Clutch could actually really walk forward and contest that, given the massive vision disadvantage that they had. And now it's FlyQuest going towards mid, utilizing the extra range with the Jinx rockets to knock down this turret.
There you go, Turtle popping off again, getting excited. That's 2 turrets down now on the side of Clutch Gaming. FlyQuest putting that money in their pocket, up almost 1,000 gold, and walking away before Clutch has any response.
You can see Piglet was down in the bottom lane trying to maximize farm, trying to push that out. Pobelter will be down there to actually collect it, and I think the advantages in the top lane are going to start really kind of subsiding. It's going to be harder for Huni to continue to bully this matchup. He is at a very strong point early on, though. He used the Klepto to get that additional gold. He's on a quick 2 items, and when we see the Rage Blade complete for Piglet, I think that's going to be a really big point of power for this team, because you're going to have a lot of AP on the Karma, these really big shields to actually speed up and protect that Rage Blade Kaisa. And then Piglet may, even if he has a gold disadvantage against Turtle, be more powerful at that time.
Roto Belt finally completed for Viper. Feels good for him. Warrior on your Nocturne. Santorin with the stopwatch as the other item in the inventory. You always see this come out really early on Nocturnes. Even if they don't go for the commencing stopwatch, they'll buy one very early often as well, just to make sure that those dives can happen. That's the entire point of the champion. If you can't fly in, there's no point in doing anything. You're just throwing out Qs, trying to clear waves. On the opposite side, Lira with the Phage in inventory tells me he's looking for the Black Cleaver here. Very standard itemization on the Rek'Sai. Seraph's Embrace already fully completed for Damonte as well. Fight starting off. JayJ taken low. Nearly going to be taken down. Kept alive by the stopwatch. Turtle's firing off some rockets. Piglet's going to be zoned away. JayJ somehow still alive. Viper coming around from the side. Lira in hot pursuit. Turtle goes on a killing spree and takes down Vulcan, as now Lira's the next one on the chopping block.
Turtle's
Turtle
going.
looking for the rockets. Super Mega Death Rocket barely going to be escaped from
excited.
CC coming down from Pobe. And FlyQuest FlyQuest have found 3.
They're marching it down mid. They could crack an inhibitor potentially here. We'll see if they have the minions to do it. They're maybe going to just tank up the turret. You see Viper using the Guardian from Braum, taking turret hits to prevent backdoor from turning on as they wait for the next wave of minions to come in. And this could be an inhibitor. I don't even know if they want it, though, at 18 minutes.
Inhibitor line broken at 18 is so critical, though. This removes that possibility of stalling out when you don't know how to break into the enemy base and you're not confident enough to take the Baron. Big gain for FlyQuest.
Yeah, very decisive plays here from FlyQuest, fully committing to going forward as they get excited on Turtle. Pobelter is going to fly in, and this stopwatch was game-changing for JayJ. Vulcan goes over. It looks like he's a guaranteed kill. Stopwatching right before the last tick of Ignite takes him down, then flashing out. Vulcan can't get in to finish him off, and now your Alistar is stuck in there with the ultimate expiring. That is going to be the first kill there for Turtle. Then everyone has to retreat as Lira getting trained down, the zap connecting, the ultimate just barely missing. And Pobelter just follows it up, flies in. Another kill, another reset for Turtle. They're able to get 2 more turrets off of it, and they have a massive gold lead now. You can see how strong Turtle is, i.e. Hurricane, as well as that Vamp Scepter. Gonna be such a big deal for the team. And if you're over on the side of Clutch, you're kind of looking at these 2 members, the Lissandra and the Jinx. Those are where the bounties are. Those are the really strong guys you need to shut down to try to get back into this game.
And that could be your win condition. You know that's on everybody's mind. Can Piglet find the opportunity to go in with the killer instinct, assassinate WildTurtle in the background if they can stack up the plasma? But when Turtle is 4-0-1, when he's got the gold, CS, and damage numbers that he has this game, it is definitely a game where he is popping off and making those plays happen. He's had a couple hypey moments so far this split where he's gone too far ahead of his team. They haven't been on the same page, and he's even talked about that coordination, that communication needing to be there. And I think that last team fight was a great highlight of FlyQuest doing everything as a unit, even firing the rocket at the angle with the Jinx ult to make it so the only way out is to flash right into Pobelter.
Exactly. I mean, this is a team that's looking like they are very much on the same page this game, and that 2,550 gold difference for Turtle is essentially a completed Zeal item over your opponent. That is absolutely enormous for him. You know, being the beneficiary not only of getting all those kills, but all the turrets and having a CS advantage on top of that just puts you monumentally ahead. And now it is the Infernal Dragon.
Oh, baby.
And there's just such small chance of being able to actually contest this when you look and you see all the vision in this quadrant of the map. Over here, look at all these wards collected by FlyQuest. It's trying to be a Baron rush on the other side for Clutch, which would be a huge play. There's no vision in the area. We'll see if they can suss it out. The blue ward did come down, and I don't think they can kill it fast enough.
Nope, you have a Kai'Sa, but she doesn't have the itemization she needs yet. No Ginsu's Rage Blade means the Bork is not going to be having the double procs. So Clutch Gaming have to get themselves away from this one. FlyQuest coming in, seeing if maybe there's something to find. Lira goes over the wall with the tunnel. But now that FlyQuest have not only the 2 Oceans for the regeneration, but also the Infernal for the extra damage on a team that's honestly very damage-laden, you're in a spot where you can start saying, okay, let's take control over this Baron area ourselves. It's still very early, but this is forceful.
Yeah, definitely is. And they are going to be a huge Baron threat when you have this much damage, as you're saying. All the additional damage coming in from the Infernal. They also have double Ocean, so getting poked down by that Baron damage is less of a threat because you can step off it, reset, allow that regen to kick in and heal you back up.
Ryze wave clear always so satisfying there as Damonte bowls over a few minions in the top side. Zhonya's Hourglass ready to go on him if he gets himself into a tough spot here in these team fights, but Damonte is going to have to go back to being Damonster. The performances that he had in the first couple weeks for Clutch Gaming. Remember, it was Clutch that started off week number 1 going 2-0 and then went 0-6 over the course of the next 3 weeks. But even in those losses, Damonte was stepping up. He was having good performances. A lot of the champions at the beginning of the split that he was having those huge showings on with a Galio and an Akali and things that were subsequently nerfed caused people to ask, well, is Damonte now really in a bad spot because his champ pool got hit really hard? And he's a guy that I'm looking at Clutch Gaming to say, okay, can he step up? Can he be that guy again? Can he do that heavy lifting? Because this is a great game to prove himself.
It certainly is, and it's a situation where you're down 4,000 plus gold. you need someone like a really strong split pusher to actually hold you in this game to buy time, because this is a composition that is built around grouping up with the Karma as well as this Kai'Sa and team fight, right? And if you can't actually do that, if you are too far behind, well, there's not a lot of win conditions there besides the Ryze being in that sideline, and that's where there's a lot of pressure on Damonte to make things happen.
Looking at the inventory of Viper, having completed the Proto Belt, still continuing to sit on the Fiendish Codex for now, wants to go straight into the Rabadon's Death Cap second to multiply the AP. Remember, the extra bonus of that means additional AP is also additional health because you're Vladimir. The passive makes it so those stats give each other. As the top side tier 1 falling means FlyQuest now has more control over the map than ever. It's time to put down more wards. Clutch Gaming still having a good control ward line in their jungle, but the fight starting off. Turtle's gonna be in some trouble, taken very low here in the start. Damonte looking to go in, and he shuts him down! Nice stasis to stay alive here now as well. Clutch Gaming looking to find even more. Damonte taken very low, still gonna be kept alive. Viper finding a lot of damage going to multiple people.
The combo!
FlyQuest is stuck! Clutch Gaming has found themselves one hell of a fight. Pobelter grabs the kill on Damonte. He'll take a couple down with them, but the shutdown credit goes over to Piglet. And Clutch Gaming look for Baron, but they just don't have the health.
What an explosive fight. We said Damonte needed to be able to make a play. What about getting a shutdown by yourself on WildTurtle, the strongest member here? As Turtle steps forward, they have no vision below them. They lose track of where Damonte is, and Damonte commits fully to it, flashing forward, finishing off Turtle, and buying a lot of time, not only with the Zonias, but then the Seraph shield, the passive shield, making it take so long to take him down, and then track Vulcan as FlyQuest steps forward. That is a W flash Q to reposition for the headbutt pulverize in the middle of 4 members. And that is a game-changing play. Vulcan has had a couple of them on the Alistar. Beautiful thing.
Damonte, I love this guy's face cams because if he's doing something that's just completely wrong, he's going directly face to palm. And if he's popping off, you're going to see it. This guy is honest with how he plays League of Legends. And he is honestly going crazy. 4,600 damage from both mid laners in the last team fight.
But you've got to say, with how close that fight actually ended up, if Turtle doesn't instantly die, how in the world do you ever win that, right? You know, and a lot more gold now is in the pockets of Clutch, so that is going to help in that regard. But certainly there was 3 low HP members there.
Yeah.
You know, that could be one rocket coming out of Turtle here, who's now on.
One rocket would do more damage than he did in that last fight. Viper's in some trouble. A lot of people from Clutch Gaming are going to be looking for him, but they've also lost Damonte. Both sides collapsed on a singular member. The problem is, Vladimir has a lot of escapes. JayJ now looking to go back in. Vulcan's in some trouble. Clutch is in some trouble. Piglet's in some trouble. Looking to get himself away. He's fleeing, but you can't outrun the rocket. Those suckers are heat-seeking. Lira tries to get out, but he's barely getting away by the skin of his teeth. FlyQuest have found the victory, and FlyQuest are looking for Baron.
Yeah, they're heading straight to it. Lira, no flash available, doesn't even have his smite up. There is no chance that you're going to be able to contest this one, and FlyQuest come right back. JayJ says, anything you can do, I can do better. He goes in with the Braum, and while the play may not have outshined what Vulcan did, the result certainly will. They're going to grab the Baron, they're going to get a couple clean kills, and they're in full control of this game.
I was in the middle of saying it as the fight broke out, but one auto attack with Rocket plus Hurricane is going to do so much damage from Turtle. And let's take a look at how this started here.
Yeah, but this is a split fight, but the Vladimir is able to just retreat. He can actually escape while Damonte is completely isolated. Then JayJ says, we can fight. Let's go for more. He flashes in, gets the knock up onto Huni. You can see him just going straight for it. Look at those crit rockets popping across multiple members, and then Turtle gets the splash off of Lira, knocking down Piglet. Almost gets another with his ult. Vulcan is chased down and knocked down 3 for 0. The Baron to boot. They are up 6,000 and gonna grab another Ocean.
Ocean number 3 for FlyQuest means when you're on this Baron push, even if you take some damage, just pull over for a pit stop in the jungle real quick, regenerate all of your resources over the next 15, 20 seconds, and go right back to the push. The fountain is almost no longer required for this team. WildTurtle now with the second BF sword in inventory means he's scarier than ever. Pobelter also no slouch of his own. Luden's Echo, plus having the Hourglass, plus the 2 rods in inventory to combine into the hat. Clutch Gaming now has to try to defend this somehow. Damonte looking to collapse, make some sort of a play, but again, you're constantly collapsing onto Vlad. This is a guy that can get himself out of trouble. Santorin tries to come in to help him. He's going to be dropped down first. Viper taken very low. Lira grabbing the kill onto him. Santorin going to be kept alive with
Turtle's
the
taking the base.
And Turtle's taking the base while Clutch Gaming takes the kills. Inhibitor number 1 will go down, and Clutch has to wonder if it was worth.
Yeah, they do get the kill on the Viper. They get the kill on Santorin, and you know, if you make the call that the mid lane inhibitor is indefensible, then I think this is a good choice here from Clutch. And I'm not sure they would have been able to actually defend that, so they get some more gold in their pockets. They do get those 2 kills. And we'll see if they can use this to try to claw their way back in, because certainly if you can actually get a turret off of that, it becomes that much more worthwhile. And Damonte going to be able to knock it down with 1 easy auto, and Pobelter maybe a 3rd kill.
Pobelter, you're in a lot of trouble, buddy. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I do know about that one. It wasn't good.
What do you know about that one?
It was not good. Yeah,
all right, that's the expert consensus.
Yeah, because now, I mean, you look at that extended play, great, you got an inhibitor. There's very little monetary value to that, and that is actually a negative almost 1,100 Baron power play there. So well done by Clutch, scrappy play to get back in this. They're playing away from Turtle. He is this monstrously strong member, so you say, all right, Turtle's mid, who cares? We'll go somewhere else. We'll fight those other guys.
I can respect it. It's always hard to go onto the Vladimir, though. The champion has the stopwatch and inventory now, so you've got the ability to pull into stasis. You're also going to have enchanted Qs in there where you're regenerating a ton of HP, the ultimate also giving you a lot back. It requires immense investment to go onto this champion, which is why I'm always so skeptical when that's how they start off the fights. But as you said, if that's the only cards you can play, well, that's what you're putting on the table.
Yep, and the talk is ticking as we do see that Piglet is building towards that IE. He has a QSS. There's a Mikhail's also on Huni, so a lot of protection there. The additional shielding coming through. They have 2 ways to remove crowd control from him, but Turtle is just so strong, and I just don't think you can win a fight unless you can get onto him. Vulcan forced to ult.
Yeah, Vulcan having to ult is a big tool down for the next fight that could happen. Fortunately, Baron not live again just yet, so Clutch Gaming wiping some sweat off their foreheads because of that one. WildTurtle, 4 items. Stopwatch the last one. Very important.
Yep, exactly. It makes it so much harder to dive in onto him, because if you fully commit to that dive on a Turtle and he just goes right into the stasis, that is going to be mitigating so much of your damage, wasting so much of your time that these other members are going to be able to attack you, are going to be on top of you. Vladimir and Pobelter here especially having a lot of AoE damage in the kits.
One thing I'm also going to point out here, the Ryze Crystal Scepter on Damonte's Ryze. We saw this show up in pro play here recently. Saw Boy talking about it earlier because it's been a staple build of his for so long. He's playing the big brain cards saying, I told you guys, this is the way that you play Ryze, but this makes it so that constant machine gunning of spells is impossible to get away from unless you're burning summoners, unless you've got someone else to save you, and it means he can run down anybody that makes the mistake of getting too close to him.
Yeah, it's kind of that tech choice. You're sacrificing perhaps some damage potential for damage consistency, right? It's allowing you to keep those snares up and to keep on top of them, which, you know, you're hoping that trade-off then results in higher overall DPS, even though the item itself may add less than something, you know, like a Void Staff or whatever, for example, if they're building out MR.
WildTurtle will continue pushing up here in the mid lane. Baron, 70 seconds until it spawns. The map currently owned by FlyQuest, as it has been for the past few minutes now. You can see all the wards placed down on the top side of the Clutch Gaming jungle. Fortunately for CG, right now FlyQuest is getting back. They know the Baron's coming up soon, so everybody went home. Lots of control wards in the inventory. The only person that doesn't have them is WildTurtle because his inventory is full. And that means FlyQuest will come back out on the map and take control over this Baron area. It'll be up to Clutch to decide whether or not it's worth the fight for that when Turtle's as strong as he is.
Yeah, and I think that Baron is really where FlyQuest is looking to end this game. You know, if you don't actually end the game or you lose the Baron around this next 5-6 minutes, then you're giving Piglet more and more time to catch up, right? Because Turtle is going to finish his GA, he is going to be capped out on items, and then from there on in, Piglet is just closing that gap. You know, the advantage becomes less and less.
FlyQuest, a team, as we said, that's on a 4-game loss streak after a very impressive start here this split. And this would be one way to turn that around. For a player like WildTurtle, who also said he was specifically practicing this split on knowing when to go ham and when to tone things back, when to chill for a while, scale up. He's scaled. we're at the point now where even the WildTurtle who wants to carefully consider every option is wanting to pop off. And you're on a champion whose passive literally reads, when you pop off harder. Let's see if he can make it happen. Santorin goes in. Paranoia to start things off. Viper into the middle of 5 people, looking to drop the tides of blood. Here we go, the flank coming in from Pobelter. Clutch Gaming's in retreat. Turtle coming in from behind. Rockets are going to be flying as Clutch Gaming has to escape. Huni's taken low. The zap comes through, but it will not find the mark. Winner's Bite does, though, and that should be it for him. Zap finds it, and Santorin makes sure he grabs the kill. 2 dead on the side of Clutch Gaming. Everybody alive for FlyQuest. That's the sound of Baron.
Yep, they can head right on over to that Baron, grab it up. They may try to just go for the mid lane inhibitor here first, and potentially they could just try to walk it in and end the game if they really want to go a bit more risky. Huni's still down for 35 seconds. Damonte out for 20. Yeah, they're looking for the end here. They're calling to go forward. You can see Pobelter's escorting the minion wave in, and FlyQuest want to at least get some turrets here.
Here we go, Clutch Gaming. It's a 3 versus 5 defense. Vulcan starting things off, jumping in with a headbutt into the Pulverize, gonna be killed instantly now as Piglet tries to get himself away. QSS not gonna be enough, and he is blown up. He takes one with him, but is it going to be enough to save the day? Lira going into the ultimate, Damonte dropping some damage. Viper gonna be taken low. Damonte now 1 versus 4. It's him against the world. Viper going into the pool once more. Santorin auto-attacking the Nexus, looking to take this one down. They will not defend, and FlyQuest finds the win.
And a clean win it was here from FlyQuest. Turtle just absolutely taking over this game on the Jinx. A complete monster on the day.
7-1 and 7.
What a beast is all I can say. FlyQuest were looking really good, able to close this one out pretty quickly with the advantages they had, especially considering how strong their comp was in the later stages. When you're looking at the Vladimir and this Jinx, they were still willing to go for the throat. They're still willing to make the call, not to back off and go for the Baron, but to try to end it. They're able to pull it off.
We talked about the Clutch Gaming strategy being these triple threats, and they had 2 out of 3 of the threats this time, but it seems like putting Huni on these more supportive champions hasn't been working out for them. Both of the Karma games ended up being losses despite Huni having very solid lanes. Might be indicative of needing to have him on more of a champion that can sustain itself and do its own things, but across the board, the loss streak has ended. FlyQuest is still comfortably in a playoff spot right now, and they have to feel good about this.
Yeah, they've got to feel really good, and for Clutch, it's tough because you're building this composition where the Karma is supposed to come over and actually, empower your Kai'Sa, strengthen her up so she can take over in these team fights. But their bot lane lost 2v2, double kill early went on the Jinx. All this turret gold and turret plates went onto the Jinx, and they just got put in a situation where Piglet was always behind the ball. He was never able to match that power from Turtle with a Karma or not.
Well, Turtle popped off, FlyQuest ended the loss streak, and for more on how they did it, Pastry Time standing by for an interview.
Turtle did indeed pop off. I'm standing by with the FlyQuest bot laner. After a slide like that, has to feel good to have such a great Jinx game.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. I used to be a Jinx main, so it's really nice that she came back in the meta, and I just like playing her.
And of course, we've only seen it one other time so far, the split in the LCS. What was it that kind of compelled you to say, hey, Jinx is back?
I just think other AD carries are just kind of a little bit weaker right now, and they do different things, and Jinx is a hyper carry, and we're not a great team, so we need some scaling.
Well, we'll have to see how the results work out, but congratulations on your win today. We're going to go throw it back to the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time. Good to see FlyQuest breaking that 4-game loss streak that they suffered over the last 2 weeks. Does a lot in terms of keeping them in the conversation for that playoff picture. This was a team that was in the conversation for top 2, top 3 in the outset of this split, and then kind of fell down the ranks. This will be a solid win for them to pick up off the back end of that Jinx piloted by WildTurtle.
And I like that they're kind of returning more to teamfight. Yes, the Vladimir is the split-pushing, carry-oriented champion, but it's still at its best in team. It's a team fighter.
Yeah. Not just team fight, though. Easy to execute team fight. You press R, you hit one target. It's so easy. These team comps, like what Clutch Gaming is doing, it's so complicated and convoluted for you to actually hit a nice engage later on against a Jinx. It's just too difficult. You're setting yourself up for failure. You're already struggling closing games out.
Is the issue that you have with their comp the Karma more than anything else? Because I like the other 4 champions. I just dislike the Karma.
See, I don't mind it if you were against a Vlad, because you have a lot of early kill pressure with the Rek'Sai, you can start roaming around and try to snowball. But yeah, the Karma is a bit of a problem because I'm not trusting in them to be able to close out if they were to get an early lead. I want some more stronger late game scaling or a stronger hyper carry.
Hi, what would you put in place of that Karma then to round this composition out?
If I were to pick, well, I want to pick the Karma, but it's kind of weird because you have Huni as your top laner, right? Like, he excels well on the random champions more than a traditional champion, you know? Like, when you have a Ryze and a Kai'Sa, all they really want is someone to stand in front of them. Like, they do insane amounts of damage. You saw Damonte that game doing so much damage, but there's no one ever in front of him, right? So give, like, a tank to be in front of him, and then that'd been perfectly okay, like a Sion or something, right? Because, like, how hard is Viper going to bully you if you pick Sion? But in the same vein, you are playing with Huni, and he excels on those random champions like Rumble and Karma.
It makes some sense because the Karma's job is to get ahead early, absorb pressure early on against any matchup almost, and then once you have that, you have this Kai'Sa who is hopefully going even in the bot lane, so you transition to team fighting and you take that lead. But the problem with Clutch Gaming as a team is that they're so volatile. Like, Huni's getting ahead, and what's happening on the bot side?
We're taking the 2v2 and we're losing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, like, even if the comp makes a little bit of sense, it is very hard to execute on. I don't love it. These kinds of plays right here are why a style like this is so hard for Clutch to pull off.
Right, and it's just as simple as like Vulcan getting caught out. At this point, just flash out. You can survive, and at best, you would trade 1-for-1 at best. And I don't think you want to trade kills versus Jinx. And it's just, why are you doing this? Like, you have a huge advantage top, and you're doing well mid, let your top laner carry.
Yeah, and there was a chance they could have played a little bit better because the Braum passive stacked up as the Alistar passive was stacking up, and he could have autoed the Jinx, and then they could focus the Braum. He wanted to hit the Braum under turret range, but then the Braum stun hit him. So it was a close thing, but it was
still
to
one
point.
I was going to say, yeah, you go back to High's point. It's like, if that's the barrier of execution, if we're looking for them to turn a play in that fashion, then it's not the play you should be making. Just go ahead and sack the bot lane to some degree in that moment, sack the flash, and just keep building that advantage in the top lane. Huni?
It was a self-sack with the Blade of the Ruined King that we still don't understand.
I know. Even Doublelift himself on Twitter, client Stixay, confirming, don't know where this Blade of the Ruined King Kai'Sa build is coming from, but they don't want to see any more of it. Again, I want to return to the point of Clutch Gaming, landing on somewhat of an identity around their top laner, Huni. He's played the Cassiopeia to success. He's now played a couple Karma games. They clearly want to put him in advantageous lane bully matchups. And then we see these kinds of wacky plays happen across the map to sacrifice all the advantages that came from it. Flip side, let's talk about FlyQuest and how they used that double kill on the Jinx to ultimately push through to a victory. And it came with a team fight in the mid lane.
Yeah, and I think this is the biggest thing is that they're never on the Jinx early on, and this is great. You're blowing up the Braum almost, but this entire time you have Jinx running wild.
And you have Vlad actually being chased down by the Ryze and the Rek'Sai on the bottom side. So there's two fights happening. Vlad's just a little too hard. You don't have enough damage and stickiness on him. And unfortunately, they forget that Pobelter is coming in on the side. That flash puts him right in range of Karma, hits the double, and off that play, you're already doomed. You're not going to be able to engage onto the Jinx anymore. Tap out.
We see this often, rather, in professional games where it's a support player and a weak champion trying to get bursting on the other support player, and they just didn't have the damage to kill them there because they started that 3v4. Their Rek'Sai, their Ryze are on the bottom side of the map, and they're starting this 3v4, trying to get the pick, but they just don't have the damage for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, who's the easiest person to kill? The support, so go kill him quick and disengage, but it's so hard to do against the Braum and these tankier supports.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I feel like once those two early kills were dropped into the pocket of WildTurtle, he's home free with the composition that was built around him, right? You have a team fight threat of AoE damage from both Lissandra and the Vladimir. You have still the Braum to play a somewhat Pelian protective support. And at the end of the day, you just got Jinx running in from behind all of that front line and laying out the damage. It just didn't feel, after that early play in the bot lane, that Clutch had many options remaining.
And it's so easy to execute. You don't need to think about it. The coach doesn't need to tell you anything. It's like the dominoes fall in place and you're the match. Oh, we figured out how we should play. We should stand in front of our AD carry, and then he'll do the damage, and it's so easy. And then you're on Piglet's side, and he's thinking, well, how do I deal damage? Do I get the shield from Karma? Does Rek'Sai initiate and stand in front of me? Do I wait for Alistar to combo? When am I supposed to ultimate? There's too many moving parts for these kinds of comps.
It's funny because Turtle actually played like the most reserved on his team that game. It was like Viper and Santorin who were like taking 2v2s in the side lanes and like barely winning or sometimes losing them. And Turtle's just running down mid like objectives, objectives, objectives.
Yeah, now FlyQuest looking ahead at the remaining schedule for them. They play Echo Fox tomorrow. They still have to play Team Liquid and Cloud9 again in the second round robin. So with that and a couple other easier games, I'll say, they seem to have kind of a middle ground in terms of strength of schedule to close it out. But how do we feel about this FlyQuest squad that we were so hot on early in the season? Then we all pulled back and we're like, never mind, I'm off the boat. They hit their ceiling, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then they put together a solid victory here. How are we feeling about their prospects moving towards the postseason?
Right. Well, they went on a 4-game loss streak, right? But during those 4 games, they played really strong teams like TSM, C9, and Team Liquid all at the same time, I believe. And they had an unfortunate game versus CLG. So moving forward, they do have 2 hard games against Team Liquid and C9 again. But all the other games, they should be able to handily take it. Like, you watch their games, and it's not like you question mark what they're doing, right? It seems at least like they have an idea of what they're doing, and they play well. Just sometimes they falter. But they look like a strong team to me.
Is WildTurtle the person that they should be investing in as their primary carry?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I like Viper on threats, but you don't need to play around him 100% of the time. And especially, please focus on team fighting, not tight foot.
WildTurtle is the kind of aggression that actually works right now. Like, if he commits fully, but let's say your entire team follows you, it would work a lot more often than it does for him. He oftentimes looks goofy for doing it, but imagine if every time he did it, everybody was in on it. It'd be like, wow, WildTurtle, you're lagging behind. The rest of the team is being great.
Griffin of the LCK is your perfect example of a team that fully commits and comes out better for it. Game 5 has Echo Fox versus Optic Gaming, and that match is coming up after the break.
Down the bot lane side, Vulcan tries to make the play. JayJ is going to be taken very low. Piglet trying to get the return kill. Barely secures it with the Acathian range. Lira's the next one on the chopping block.
Turtle's
looking
going.
for the Rockets. Super Mega Death Rocket barely going to be escaped from the CC coming down from Pobe.
He has no stopwatch. We can kill bot. Got the big combo, big combo. Kill everyone, then Baron. Show these, nice try, bro.
Knocking down with 1 easy auto, and Pobelter, maybe a 3rd kill.
Pobelter, you're in a lot of trouble, buddy. I don't know about that one. The headbutt into the Pulverize going to be killed instantly now. If Piglet tries to get himself away, QSS not going to be enough, and he is blown up.
Turtle just absolutely taking over this game on the Jinx.
You got your own car with your own insurance.
Thanks, Steph. No more driving that old hand-me-down.
Surprise!
No, I'm not gonna get a date in this.
We had a lot of great dates in this car.
No, ew.